Thank you, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'nezro. Okay, Rabotai. Erev Shabbat Shalom. We're studying Parshat Yitro. Now I have to apologize before we start because generally in this venue we like to take the class in a very deep fashion. We like to talk about Gilgulim and reincarnation and Shamot and Tuman Tara. I decided this week to take a small break from the Kabbalah and go back to basics. Give a good old-fashioned drasha the way that it was meant to be for many years. The Mislei Sharim, the Ramchal, he says in the beginning of his book that I'm going to tell you things that you already know. You know, ethics when it comes to teaching ethics and humility and about the dangers of gava and anger and kas and kabdanot, all these things. The Ramchal says, I know you know all those things that I'm going to tell you. I know you know that what I'm going to say, that it's improper to be angry, it's more proper to be anab, all these. I know you know what I'm going to write. But sometimes we have to be reminded. You know, there's a holiday coming up on Sunday. It's called the Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know if you know it. And if you ever go in any football game in the halftime show, if you go inside the locker, you see the coach with all the players surrounding him, and he's saying, Rabotai, we have to win, we have to beat them, we have to rah. He's going all these things. So I always said to myself, I said, don't these guys know that they have to win? Don't these guys know they have to beat the other team? They're getting paid billions of dollars to beat the other team. So what is he coming along in the locker room in the halftime show saying, rah. We know, rah. That's what they're there for. The answer is he's there just to remind them. Because obviously they know, that's their job, they know what they're doing. So Musar, when it comes to ethics, the same exact thing. Sometimes we know what we're supposed to be doing, but the Ramchal says it's always nice to get a reminder. So based on that wonderful introduction, I turn your attention to source number 1, Parshat Yitro. Obviously, this Parsha is known for Matan Torah. The fact that Jews, we got the reason why the world was created in order for the Jews to receive the Torah. So says the very first source, B'chodesh hashlishi letzit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim b'yom hazeh ba'u midbar Sinai. It was on the 3rd month, where if we're counting months, in the first month is Nisan, so let's count Nisan, Iyar, Sivan. So it was in the month of Sivan, the Bnei Yisrael, they came to Midbar Sinai, and it was there they got to receive the Torah. So my very first question that I start off with on this pasuk is, very simply speaking, it's a well-known thing that Matan Torah, the ceremony of Matan Torah wasn't just that God was giving over the Torah to the Jewish people. It was a marriage ceremony. It was between husband and wife. We became, so to speak, a couple with the Sefer Torah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's the Shadchan. That was the point. So if you know the way Shadchanut works when it comes to getting married, we like to tell the couple, listen, when you're engaged, get married as fast as you can, because we don't want the couple to linger in the forbidden zone for too long. When the couple is engaged, it can lead to bad thoughts. They can find out things about each other that they might not want to know. So therefore, we tell the couple, yalla, get married as quick as you can. Have a very short engagement period and get married right away. So my question was, this rule, it was made up by the rabbis. We want to get them married quickly. So if the rabbis made it up, you could say that it came with haskama of Hashem. Obviously, if they're saying it, it means Hashem agreed with them. So therefore, my question is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu wait 3 months to give the Jewish people the Torah? If I was Hashem, and again, I want to get the shidduch moving, and again, Am Yisrael and the Torah is shidduch, why would Hashem wait 3 months and wait till Bnei Yisrael got out of Egypt to give them the Torah then? The second they got out of Egypt, give them the Torah right away. Why are you waiting? Nachon? How do I know incidentally? How do I know?
Be worthy.
Oh, very good. You're getting there. I like it. Incidentally, how do I know that Matan Torah was a chuppah ceremony? In the next source. Actually, it's the same source number 1, but in the second pasuk, Vayotze Moshe, or Vayotze Moshe et ha'am, likrat Elohim. So the nation goes out to greet God. Mina machaneh, from the camp, v'yityatzvu b'tachtit ha'ar, and they got to the corner of the mountain. So says the Gemara, is the Gemara Shabbat. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you, source number 2, they came to the corner of the mountain. Amarav Avdimi bar Hama bar Ahsa milamed. What does that mean? The Bnei Yisrael got to the corner of the mountain, milamed. Shekafa HaKadosh Baruch Hu alehem har kegigit. that Hashem, so to speak, he took the mountain and he held it over their heads. And he says, Ve'amar lahem, and he told them, Im atem mekablim et Torah mutav. If you accept the Torah the way it is, that's good. I'm not gonna throw the mountain on you. Ve'im lav, and if you don't, sham tiyeh kvuratchem. This is gonna be your burial spot. So it wasn't the most peaceful of wedding ceremonies, but yet this was the wedding ceremony that the Jews had along with the Torah. So even though this has nothing to do with the drasha, I cannot go past this Gemara without telling you the Ben Yoyada. Unbelievable Ben Ish Chai on this piece of Gemara. We'll sleep inside together. Source number 3 says the Ben Ish Chai, Milamed shekafa hakadosh baruch hu alehem har kigigit. He's quoting the Gemara that said Hashem lifted the mountain over their heads. Says the Ben Ish Chai, yesh lahakshot. A person could ask, lama asu kigigit. First of all, what is a gigit? First of all, it's a bucket that Hashem literally took the mountain, and instead of having the mountain flat, picture Bnei Yisrael on the ground, instead of having taking the mountain and threatening them to just throw it on their heads and completely squash them, he dug it out like a cup. He took a cup like that. Imagine if the mountain was flat, and instead of making it flat, he dug it into a cup. So says the Ben Ish Chai, why would Hashem do that? Why would Hashem make the mountain like a gigit? Va'asa bo beit kibul. He made it hollow inside, kemo gigit. It was enough for Hashem just to leave the way the mountain was and just threaten with that, throw it over their heads. Says the Ben Ish Chai, oh, maybe you want to tell me the reason why he did it this way was so they don't run away. Who's going to run away from Hashem? Hashem is telling you to stay put, you stay put. Says Ben Ish Chai, because even if they wanted to get out, again, they're closed in, so where are they going? Not only that, says the Ben Ish Chai, I ask you another question in the Gemara. That's the biggest question in the Sugya. What are you telling me that Hashem had to threaten Am Yisrael? If you accept the Torah, that's good, but if you don't, I'm going to throw the mountain over your heads. We were taught since we're in second grade. The Jewish people said, Na'aseh v'nishma. So what are you telling me that Hashem had to threaten them? And say, what happened to the Na'aseh v'nishma? So before the Ben Ish Chai's answer, I'll tell you the answer to the Tosfot. That's the question of the Tosfot on the daf. Right there in the Gemara. Tosfot says, well, I'll tell you why. Because the Jewish people, you're right, they said Na'aseh v'nishma. But that was only after they heard the first two commandments. What happened was that after they heard the first two commandments, what happened? The Neshama left them. They died. So therefore Hashem was worried that after Bnei Yisrael experienced the first two commandments, when the Neshama left, he was afraid that maybe they regretted their decision. Oh, Hashem says, maybe you regret your decision by saying Na'aseh v'nishma. For the rest of the Torah, I'm going to force you. So this way you can't get out. You understand the answer to Tosfot? Be'emet, Am Yisrael, they did. They said Na'aseh v'nishma. But after the Neshamot left them, Hashem was scared. Maybe now they're going to regret. Therefore, he had to threaten them. That's the answer of the Tosfot. But Ish Chai is going to give his own interpretation. Says the Ben Ish Chai, he asks a third question on the Sugya. Amru sham tiyeh kivuratchem. If you look at the words of the Gemara, Hashem said that if you don't accept the Torah, sham tiyeh kivuratchem. Over there is going to be your burial spot. Says the Ben Ish Chai. What's the word sham? If Bnei Yisrael is here, they're on this spot. The word is not sham. The word should be kan or po. Exactly. Says the Ben Ish Chai. Where you're standing right now, the answer is kan. So why would Hashem use the word sham? Now, we're not going to get to the answer of Ben Ish Chai on how he says sham. I'll offer you a different interpretation. I'll answer the second question first. This is the answer of the Hatam Sofer. He says derech musar. He says a lot of times what happens when the rabbi is trying to get his congregants to come learn Torah. So he tells him, let's say it's the winter time, he tells him, come to the shul, come learn Torah. So the guy says, Rabbi, I can't, because right now it's freezing outside, and I'm more of a summer guy. Therefore, during the winter, I hibernate. I stay in my house. I don't like to come to the shul late at night. So the rabbi says, so when are you going to learn? I'm going to learn in the springtime. Sham. I'm going to learn Sham. I'm going to learn over there. So he says, okay. He comes to his congregant during the springtime. He says, no, you told me you're going to learn in the springtime. Are you coming? So he says, Rabbi, Chaval, it's Pesach now, and I have to have my wife clean. So, Torah, Shalom Bayit, I'm going to go with the Shalom Bayit, I'm going to help my wife clean for Pesach. So when are you going to come? Sham, I'm going to come in the summertime. Summertime is better, so I'll come then. Okay? He comes in the summertime. No, are you coming to the Beit Knesset? Are you coming to learn? He says, Rabbi Chaval, it's the summertime. We have pool parties. We have barbecues. Sometimes we go to New Jersey. Sometimes we go to Connecticut. So it's not right now. It's not a good time. So when are you going to come? Sham, I'm going to come in the full time. He comes in full time. He says, Habibi, are you coming to Shiur? He says, Rabbi, it's Selichot, and I wake up very early these days. So maybe not. maybe we'll push off a different time. Also Sukkot, Abraminim, building the Sukkah. I'm busy. So when are you going to learn? Sham. I'm always going to learn Sham. He's always pushing it over there. That's called procrastination. Therefore, it says the Ben Ish Chai, says the Khatam Sofer, Sham tia kibrotchem. When a person always has the attitude of Sham, he's always pushing it off. Sham, I'm going to learn Sham, I'm going to learn then, I'm going to learn then. Says the Khatam Sofer, Sham tia kibrotchem. In that word, when you keep on using the word Sham, when you keep on procrastinating when it comes to learning Torah, that's going to be your death. That's going to be the death toll. You're never going to end up learning Torah properly. Sham tia kibrotchem. That's the answer of the Khatam Sofer. We'll get back to the Ben Ish Chai. Says the Ben Ish Chai as follows. He's answering the question. The question was, why did Hashem make the mountain har kigiyit? Why did He dig out the mountain and make it like a beit kibul? Why did He make it as if it was hollow? Says the Ben Ish Chai, v'nir li b'siyata d'shmaya ki hen kiblu Torah shebichtav kifi ma shegidu hamikoro kimu hakira'in da'azi batar peshat hamikra. Wow. Says the Ben Ish Chai that you see what happened when Bnei Israel, when they first accepted the Torah, they only accepted it the Torah shebichtav. There is a sect of Judaism called the Kira'im. In English, we call it the Karaites. Also, you have the Tzdukim, which are called the Sadducees. What is a sect of Judaism? They only go by what's written inside the Torah itself. They never accepted the Rashot of the rabbis. Exactly. Torah Shebaal Peh, they didn't accept. I'll give you an example. In Mashal, we have by Sfirat HaOmer. Torah says, Usfaratem lechem mimocharat HaShabbat. When do we start counting Sfirat HaOmer? After Shabbat. That's what it says. So the Tzedukim, they start counting Sfirat HaOmer only on Sunday, because it says Memocharat HaShabbat. So therefore, their Shavuot is always going to fall out exactly 49 days later. For their Shavuot always falls out on a Sunday. Since they start counting on a Sunday, it always falls out for them on Sunday. Why? Because the Torah says Memocharat HaShabbat. The rabbis come along and say no. Shabbat could also mean Yom Tov. And therefore, when do we actually start counting Sfirat HaOmer? Always after the first day of Yom Tov Shel Pesach. Therefore, their Shavuot falls out different than our Shavuot. Our Shavuot, we have the Rashot to say that Yom Tov is also considered Shabbat. And therefore, when the Pasuk says that Mimorat Shabbat, it could be referring to Yom Tov as well. So the Kim say, no, Mapitom. The Torah says Shabbat, therefore we start counting on Sunday. That's an example of how the Tzedukim, how they corrupt the Rashot of the Torah. Torah says Sunday, therefore they go Kippur Mikra. Therefore, says the Ben Ish Chai, when the Jews originally, when they accepted the Torah, when they said Na'aseh v'nishma, they only did so like the Tzedukim, like the Kira'im. They only accepted what it was written on the paper. The Torah says this way, that's the way it's going to be, without the Rashot of Hachamim. However, says Hashem, he goes, no, it can't be this way. You have to accept the Torah also, Torah Shebaal Peh. What the Gemara says the Ben Ish Chai, V'lo hayu רוצים לקבל תורה שבעל פה, אשר בכל תיבה ותיבה של מקרא תולה בו תלי תלים של הלכות. They didn't want to accept Torah שבעל פה, which every single word in the Torah has meaning. It has substance to it. Every single word in the Torah you could learn תלי תלים של הלכות. Mountains upon mountains, myriads upon myriads of halachot. Therefore, says the Ben Ish Chai, ולכן אמרו נעשה ונשמע. We're only accepting what we hear. What did they hear? What's written on the cloth. What's written on Torah Shebektav. However, Torah Shebaal Peh, that they didn't hear, says the Ben Ish Chai, that's not what they accepted. Therefore says the Ben Ish Chai, Ritzono lomar na'aseh kifi asher nishma min pshat hamikraot. Only what we see, what's written inside the Torah itself, not the Torah Shebaal Peh. That's what it means when Hashem came along and put a mountain over their heads. It's the Rabotai. No, you have to accept. What are you accepting? Torah Shebaal Peh. Says the Ben Ish Chai, v'lechein asata hala einehem chafur b'tocho kemo gigit. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He dug a hole into the mountain and made it hollow in order to hint to them something. He was giving them a symbol. Har gigit liramoz lahem shekol teva v'teva shemikra hu kemo gigit. Every single letter, every single word in the Torah, it's hollow within inside, meaning to say that you could take the words that are written inside the Torah and you could fill them with as much things as you want. Each word of the Torah is jam-packed with lessons and halachot that you can learn from the Torah itself. That's what Hashem was doing. He was hinting to them this secret, and therefore says the Ben Ish Chai, kimo gigit sheish la beit kibul, that it has something to accept. It's a receptacle in order to accept. Umatilin letocha yain asher techil elef alafim tipot yain bikirba. He made it as if it was a receptacle that you could fill in it many drops and many gallons of wine. It's not only enough to accept the Torah Shebektav, but also you have to accept the Torah Shebaal Peh. It's a Tanai. If you accept the Torah Shebektav, it comes along with the Torah Shebaal Peh. Therefore, says the Ben Ish Chai, "V'yadua ki hamimenim b'dashot shel Torah Shebaal Peh." Those who those who accepted the Rashot of Chazal and Torah Shebaal Peh u'mrazim asher bazeh hu mevin davar mitoch davar. A person who knows the Torah Shebaal Peh, who knows Gemara, who knows Shas and Poskim, he can make mevin davar betoch davar. He can make applicability things. He could take things that seemingly doesn't make sense with something else, that he could kind of wove them together. הלכה מתוך הלכה, בזה שאמר כפר הם הר כגיל, שיש בית קיבול, לרמוז על התורה שבעל פה, שעושה לכל תיבה בית קיבול שתחל בקרבה, כמה אלפין הלכות שבזאת תהיה עיקר קבלת התורה. Therefore, says the Ben Ish Chai, that's the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it. Only one to accept the Torah Shebechtav doesn't work that way. You also have to accept the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And maybe it's based on this. Maybe it's based on this so we can answer the question the Ben Ish Chai. Says the Ben Ish Chai, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu use the word Sham Tiyeh Kiburatchem? Why did he use after the word Sham? It should have been Kan Tiyeh Kiburatchem. I want to answer based on Ben Ish Chai that if you take the word Sham, it's spelled Shin and a Mem. But the Mem is interchangeable with the letter Samich. You could read it Shas Tiyeh Kiburatchem. Therefore, based on the Ben Ish Chai, I could say that when Hashem was telling them Sham Tiyeh Kiburatchem, He wasn't telling them Sham. That wasn't His kavanah. His kavanah was, if you don't accept the Torah Sheba'al Peh, if you don't accept the Shas, Shas Tiyeh Kiburatchem. It's in the Shas. It's in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. It's going to be your Kiburah. That's where you're going to consider dead. Because since you're not accepting the Torah Sheba'al Peh, you're going to be considered dead in that inyan. Therefore, Shas Tiyeh Kiburatchem. It's in the Shas where it's going to be your Kiburah. Unbelievable answer of the Ben Ish Chai. We try to answer the question. Thank you. We try to answer the question. Look at the Gemara in Avodah Zarah in source number 4. Says the Gemara, what does it mean in the pasuk when it says Vahi erev Vahi boker Yom Hashishi? Says the Rabbanim, if you look inside the Torah, when Hashem was creating the world, it said Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, and also when it came to the 6th day, it said Yom Hashishi. Prefix with the letter Hey, the 6th day. What is it coming to teach us? What does it mean, the 6th day? Oh, what? Maybe. Says the Gemara, Milamed, Shitna HaKadosh Baruch Hu Imase Bereshit. Hashem, so to speak, He wrote a contract. He wrote a contract up with the 6 days of creation. V'amar, Im Yisam Mikablim et Torah Mutav. If Bnei Yisrael come along on the 6th of Sivan, which is the day that we received the Torah, Yom Hashishi, the 6th day, the 6th of Sivan, if they accept the Torah on that day, then mutav. Then the world has a reason to live. But if they don't accept the Torah, ani machazir etchem latohu vavohu. I'm going to bring back the world to complete destruction, to helter skelter, as they say. So therefore, the world is pending. When Hashem originally created the world, He made it on all depending if Am Yisrael accept the Torah. If they accept the Torah, Hashem says, then the contract was fulfilled. It's not considered breaching contract. But all of a sudden, if they don't accept the Torah, then that's it. The contract is expired, and the world's going to get destroyed. The problem with this Gemara is the very next source. You're telling me that it was Yom Hashishi. Yom Hashishi means the day they accepted the Torah was on Vav Sivan. Is that really true? Did we really get the Torah on Vav Sivan? Says the next source number 5. Gemara Shabbat da Pevav. Tan Rabbanan. B'shisha b'chodesh nitanu aseret hadibrot Yisrael. It was on the 6th of Sivan that Bnei Yisrael got the Torah from Hashem. However, Rabbi Yosef omer b'shiv'a bo. Rabbi Yosef says, no, it wasn't the 6th of Sivan. It was indeed the 7th of Sivan. So according to Rabbi Yosef, what does it mean? Yom Hashishi. The 6th day wasn't the day that we got the Torah. Really, we got the Torah on the 7th. So maybe you'll tell me, well, Rabbi, halakha is not like Rabbi Yosef. And therefore, if you have one opinion, halakha is not like him. Says the very next source, in source number 6, Gemara in Eruvin, halakha Rabbi Akiva mechavero u'Rabbi Yosef mechavero. Anytime you have a machloket between Rabbi Yosef and his colleagues, halakha is always like Rabbi Yosef. Says Rashi on that daf, Rashi bechol dukta. In all situations where Rabbi Yosef is the bar plukta, where he's the person that's arguing, halakha is always like him. Therefore, in that case, we have a problem. Because how could you tell me Yom Hashishi, the 6th day, the day that we received the Torah, and that's where therefore Hashem made a contract with the world that it has to be accepted on the 6th day, according to Rabbi Yosef, which halakha is indeed like him. Halakha, the Torah was not given on the 6th day, it was given indeed on the 7th day. And not only that, it throws off the entire count. Because if you want to tell me that we start counting Sfirat HaOmer, when? On the 2nd day of Pesach, and we count 49 days, and on the 50th day, which is Shavuot, we got the Torah, but that's not really true according to Rabbi Yosef, because we didn't get the Torah on the 50th day, we got the Torah on the 51st day. So one of the world that we celebrate in Shavuot, the 50th day as if we received the Torah, then according to the Biyoseh, according to the regular sources, that's not the day that we got the Torah. So maybe you'll tell me, fine. In America, I understand, because in America we celebrate 2 days of Yom Tov. So therefore we celebrate 2 days of Yom Tov. The first day, the 6th day, no big deal. Nothing really happened on that day. So the next day, and the 7th day, that's the day we really got the Torah. And by the way, there's a minhag that way. There's a minhag that some people, they stay up not only on the first night, but they stay up also on the second night. Because since there is opinion in the Gemara that according to Rabbi Yosef, that's when we got the Torah, it's more proper to stay up on the second night. But in Eretz Yisrael, where they celebrate only 1 day of Yom Tov, they celebrate the 6th of Sivan. What are they celebrating? They're not celebrating the giving of the Torah because the Torah wasn't given on that day. The next day in Israel, it's a regular Tuesday. They're playing tennis on that day. There's golf on that day.
In Israel, every day is a holiday.
There you go.
Lives in Israel.
There you go. So the question is, according to Biyoseh, then we got the Torah on Sefer Sivan. What is the Gemara when it means when it says Yom Hashishi? Good question. Source number 7. The Tosfot on that daf. He asks the same exact question. Tema. Says the Tosfot, source number 7. Leman da'amar b'shiv'a b'chodesh nitru asreh dibrot. Ma yom hashishi. Baruch Hashem, that's our question. Says the Tosfot, v'yesh lomar. Skip down to the second line. Inamei. Hayita ru'uya l'nitan bashishi. You know what? You're right. Really, the Torah was not given on the 6th day. It wasn't. It was given on the 7th day, according to Rabbi Yosef. However, it was ra'ui to give it on that day. Meaning to say that if this was a wedding ceremony, the meat was prepared, the wine was poured, everything, the balloons were set, ice sculptures, everything was there. But for some reason, it was pushed off 1 day. Why was it pushed off 1 day? According to those votes, Shosif Moshe Yom Echad Mida'ato. Moshe said it's not proper for it to be given on the 6th of Sivan. It's better to give it the next day. It happens to be that the day of 6th of Sivan was supposed to be on a Friday. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, it's better for the Torah to be given on Shabbat. But yet, we understand the answer to this fault. Really, Be'emet, I'll tell you, the Torah was not given on the 6th day. But it was ra'ui to be given on the 6th day. Since everything was ready, and all the lights were in place, since the Torah was ready to be ready, that's why it was considered Yom Hashishi. Ability to be given. But yet, Moshe Rabbeinu said it's better to give the Torah on Shabbat because there should be a connection between the Torah and between Shabbat. And we understand the connection very well. Most people, they're too busy to learn Torah during the week. They're working, busy with their families. But on Shabbat, you're home. You're supposed to be learning. Even though the Torah does say that Shabbat is a day of rest, doesn't mean day of rest is supposed to be sleeping all day. Day of rest means it's a rest from the mundane. It's the rest from things that we do during the week. During the week, you're busy. But on Shabbat, you're supposed to be resting from the things you do during the week. But Be'emet on Shabbat, you're supposed to be studying the whole Shabbat. I met a guy once in Israel that the entire Shabbat, he was studying, from cover to cover, he used to finish Masechet Shabbat. We're talking about over 150 pages. In the most difficult sugyot in Shabbat, he would start already on Chatzot. After Chatzot on Friday, he would start page bet, and he would go all the way until Meleva Malka, midnight on Saturday night. There's still the order of Shabbat starts coming in the world after Chatzot on Friday, and it finishes on Bachatzot. And that's why if a person is eating Sudat Meleva Malka, he's allowed to say Migdol in Birkat HaMazon up until midnight, because already up until midnight the order of Shabbat is still upon us. Therefore, he would start learning Chatzot Friday. He would go all the way until Saturday night, Chatzot time. On Shabbat, that's what really Shabbat.
It says only when you add Musaf. You add Musaf also Chagin.
Oh, you're talking Migdol.
Oh, you're asking? Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Shabbat has 50 daf every Shabbat because he finishes Shas every year, but he says he doesn't have time to do it during the week because he's writing so much.
Beautiful.
So me too.
Right, 100%. So the Ben Ish Chai says that a person, the Torah learning the person gets on Shabbat, it's not only double or triple. Ben Ish Chai says that an hour learning on Shabbat is compounded 1,000 times. There's a Ben Moshe. The Ben Moshe says that each one of the days of the week are coupled with the one next to it. So Sunday is coupled with Monday, Tuesday is coupled with Wednesday, and Thursday is coupled with Friday. So the Midrash says that Shabbat came to Hashem and complained, I don't have a partner. Says Hashem, no problem, your partner is going to be the Jewish people. So it is our job on Shabbat to connect with the Torah as much as we can, because it's that day, we were given as partners to the Shabbat on that day. Shabbat and the Torah go on partners. And therefore says, Says the Tosfot. So says the Tosfot. Therefore, since it had the ability to be given on Yom Hashishi, which is the 6th of Sivan, it's not considered breaching contract. That's my point. Hashem made a contract with the world. If the Jewish people accept the Torah on the 6th of Sivan, that's good. But if not, I'm going to bring the world to Tohu Vavohu. The answer is they had the ability to accept. Therefore, that's not considered breaching contract. It's considered okay. That's the answer of the Tosfot. However, with your permission, source number 8, the Maharsha. Says Maharsha. On that daf right there, he says as follows: the man da amar b'shiv'a b'chodesh netanu ha'ezrat dibrot. According to the man da amar, according to the Yosef, that says that the Torah was given on the 7th of Sivan, Mayom Hashishi. What is the 6th day? Our question. V'yishlomar v'chulei. So he quotes the answer of the Tosfot, but he says v'shuniyei d'chekininu. He doesn't like the answer of the Tosfot. He calls it a dohak. According to Maharsha, the answer of the Tosfot is considered a dohak. It's considered a push. He gives his own answer. He goes, and the explanation to this, incredible answer. According to the rabbis, they hold that Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan. However, Rabbi Yosef Omer or Amar b'zayin bo. L'kulei alma b'shabbat nitana Torah. According to everybody, whether you hold the opinion of the rabbis that hold it was the vav, or whether you hold according to the opinion of Rabbi Yosef that it was on number 7, according to everybody, Moshe added 1 day, and therefore the Torah was given on Shabbat itself. Says the Maharsha, Yeshis tapik bazeh. The l'kulei alma nitana Torah b'yom nun aleph min hasfira. According to everybody, since Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the day pushed it off 1 day, which day was the Torah given? Day 51, according to the count, not day 50. Therefore, says the Maharsha, Lama kava Hashem yitbarach Hag HaShavot lidorot b'yom hamishim hanesfira. Why did Hashem make it that it's on the 50th day that we celebrate Shavuot? According to everybody, not only according to Rabbi Yosef, according to everybody, whether you hold 6 or whether you hold 7, L'maaseh Moshe Rabbeinu pushed the day by 1. Therefore, he ended up going on Shabbat. According to that svara. The count ends up on day 50, on day 51. Doesn't end up on day 50. So why in the world would Hashem make Shavuot on the 50th day, counting Sfirat HaOmer? Didn't happen on day 50. Nothing happened on day 50. Read day 51.
They're ready to accept it on the 50th.
What does it mean they're ready to accept it?
They're ready on the 6th day. So
it was ready. We're ready.
Okay, so Maharsha quoted this. You're right. You're giving a second answer. So you're answering me, Tosfot. I'm giving you a second answer. Says the Maharsha as follows. He says in the bold, V'akavana bazeh. Lefi shelo hayu Yisrael az le'oyim lechokhmat haTorah. There's the answer right there. Because Bnei Yisrael themselves, they weren't ready. They themselves weren't ready. It's not that everything was ready and therefore Moshe just decided to push off 1 day. It's that Bnei Yisrael weren't ready themselves. Why weren't they ready? Says the Maharsha, Ad shitaharu v'kiddishu atzmam mikol tumot Mitzrayim shatzu misham. Incredible. I mean to say that 210 years in Egypt. What do you think was going on in those 210 years? It wasn't holiness. They weren't learning Gemara the entire time. Exactly, it was Tumat Mitzrayim. They were worshipping Avodah Zarah just like the Mitzrayim were worshipping Avodah Zarah. And therefore there was so much Tumah in them. The Bnei Yisrael were not ready to all of a sudden come out and receive the Torah then. There was a lot of preparation they had to do before they accepted the Torah in order in purification, exactly, purification process. Therefore, there's a saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and that's over a weekend, by the way. Imagine 210 years in Vegas, in Tumat Mitzrayim. Therefore, that's why there's a Samar Rebbe. He says that's why you never see referred to as Yitziat Eretz Mitzrayim. Every time we refer to the Exodus of Egypt, we always say Yitziat Mitzrayim, not Yitziat Eretz Mitzrayim. Says Samar Rebbe, why? Why not refer to it as Yitziat Eretz Mitzrayim? The answer is because we're not really commemorating the fact that we left Egypt. That was nice, but we're really commemorating that Egypt left us. There's a famous saying about a person who's an alcoholic. You can take the guy out of the bar, but not the bar out of the guy. Exactly. So therefore, you can take Bnei Yisrael out of Egypt, but you can't take Egypt out of the Jewish people. And that's what we're doing inside the Midbar the whole time. We were trying to purify ourselves from Tumat Mitzrayim. And therefore, that answers the question, why did Hashem wait 3 months to give the Torah to the Jewish people? Shaare, at the end of the day, we are the Chatan, Torah is the Kala, and therefore, marry yourself right away. What are you waiting 3 months for? And so as the Chatan wasn't ready to get married. He didn't know any of the halachot. He didn't know any of the hashkafot. He wasn't yet ready to accept the Torah as his Kala. They had to do a purification process beforehand. Therefore, says Maharsha, go back inside. He says, כל שירת חטא קודמת לחוכמתו, ואם כן, הייתה הטהרה במספר 7 שבועות, ויום 50 שהם מספרים קדושים כעניין שבת שמיטים ויובלות, ולפי שביום נון נגמרה טהרה, is because on the 50th day of the count of Sfirat HaOmer, that's when the Tahara process finished. שזכינו אחר כך ביום נון א' לקבל התורה. קבע השם יתברך אותו יום 50 לחג השבועות. Says Hashem, it doesn't matter to me as much that Am Yisrael got the Torah on day 51. That's not really matters here. The Chag HaShavuot that we celebrate is not to celebrate the giving or the receiving of the Torah. That's not it, because we didn't get the Torah until day 51. What are we celebrating Chag HaShavuot? On day 50, what are we celebrating?
Oh, that we purified ourselves.
We're celebrating the fact that we purified ourselves. There's nothing to do with the Torah. Torah was given until day 51. We're not celebrating that according to the Parsha. Keep reading. Ki yirat chet kodemet chokhmah b'ma'ala u'b'zman. And therefore, what does it mean when we say Yom HaShishi? Yom HaShishi means it was on the 6th of Sivan that we became ready to receive the Torah. You say, hey, you became ready. You became pure, exactly. There's a famous song that we sing during Haggadah Shel Pesach. Ilu ilu hotzeyanu b'Mitzrayim. Fill in the blank. One of the clauses is, if you were brought us to Har Sinai, but you were not given us the Torah, Dayenu. Whoa, what do you mean Dayenu? The whole point to Har Sinai was to get the Torah. The answer is no. The fact that we got to Har Sinai and we finished the purification process, Dayenu. That itself was good enough just to get to Har Sinai and get rid of Tumat Mitzrayim. Even if we didn't get the Torah, Torah is really not important over here. The main point is that we got rid of Tumat Mitzrayim. We got rid of the purification process ended on day 50. And that's what we're celebrating Chag Shavuot. We're celebrating the fact that Bnei Yisrael became Ra'ui. We became ready, so to speak, Mitzad Chatan, in order to get the Torah. So we're learning something incredible. It's not enough just to sit down and ready, Harei Rabotai, I'm ready, I can learn Torah now. It's much more than that. A person has to be ready in order to sit down and learn Torah. Torah is not the Bible is not it's not a secular subject. Person can come along for college subjects. All you need is a pencil and a paper, and a guy's ready to learn. But when it comes to Torah, it's completely different. His mind has to be ready. He has to get rid of all the Tumat Mitzrayim before he comes to sit down and learn Torah. It has to be a clear mind, a mind without any Tumat Mitzrayim inside of it. As director of NCSY, it bothers me that sometimes I have events mixed with public school and yeshiva day school kids. I actually just came from one on Central Avenue, Beverlicious. We were there, we had maybe 30 people there. And it bothers me that the yeshiva kids, they don't even know sometimes as much as the public school kids. You look at them and there's no difference in their Torah knowledge when it comes between the public school kids who don't know any Hebrew subjects to the yeshiva day school kids who spend all day in yeshiva. And I wondered to myself, I said, why is that? Why is it that our yeshiva kids don't know as much or not as much as they should more than public school kids? I think the answer is laying right in front of us, Rabotai. They have Tumat Mitzrayim. How could it be that, once I helped a teenager get inside a yeshiva. In public school, we took him out of public school, we put him in yeshiva. And his mother calls me and she says, I don't understand. Why in the secular subjects my son is doing well, but in the Limudei Kodesh, he's not doing well at all. She wanted to make like a Kal V'chomer. Kal V'chomer, he was doing well in the secular. He should be doing well in the Hebrew. I said, your Kal V'chomer is flawed. It's not how it works, exactly. I said, does your son have a filter on his phone? No. Okay. What does he do on nights with his friends? Netflix and chill. So therefore, how could you expect him to come the very next day? How could you expect him to come the very next day and say, Rabbi, okay, I'm ready for Gemara Shiur? It's a Gemara Shiur. Your head is still by Netflix and chill. You're not in the Gemara Shiur.
He's in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's in Vegas. He's in Vegas mode. He's in Vegas mode. Exactly. Therefore, what the Mahash is telling us is that there's a prerequisite in order to come into Torah. You have to get rid of first Tumat Mitzrayim. After you get rid of Tumat Mitzrayim, then you could expect that when you sit down and learn, the Torah will have some effect. But with holding Tumat Mitzrayim in your hands, to giving our children high school age cell phones and smartphones without no filter on, just to let them mindlessly continue swiping up, YouTube Shorts, swipe up, Instagram, swipe up, TikTok, swipe up, all day swiping up to the next video, the next tuyot. How do we expect them to sit down in school and do well in the Limudei Kodesh? It says the Maharsha, the two don't mix. It doesn't go. Look at the Or Hayim, very next source to the next page. He says the same thing as the Maharsha, but he says it in different words. It says the Or Hayim. He says, source number 9, Hine, behold, Lama shegadam me'otz v'chayivotay yitbarach b'yisav v'goda hashukol atir lehem arusatchem זאת התורה תקשה? למה נעקב השם מתת התורה עד חודש השלישי? Our question, if Bnei Yisrael and the Torah are a couple, why did Hashem push off the marriage ceremony for 3 months? Shidduchim, you get it moving, says Or HaChaim. Kimin siminai ahava or simanei ahava, when it comes to the signs of love, hishlo yitakev hoshek. You don't want to hold back the lust in that case, so therefore give it right away. Says the Or HaChaim, don't tell me, by the way, don't tell me that it was a geography problem. Don't tell me, well, listen, Bnei Yisrael were in Egypt, and it kind of takes some time to get to the Sinai Peninsula, and therefore they had to walk. It took some time, therefore it took 50 days. Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, if you want to tell me maybe it was a geography issue, the Gemara Sanhedrin clearly tells us that the drive between where Eliezer was and where Rivka was, it was like a 3-day journey, and yet Eliezer got there in record time. He just took one jump and therefore he was there already. So just like Hashem can make a miracle for Eliezer Ever Abraham, he can make the same miracle for Am Yisrael. There's no problem. He just made 10 plagues in Egypt. Therefore, if you're getting away with making 10 plagues in Egypt, splitting the sea, make the same exact miracle for Eliezer to the Jewish people and have them get from Egypt to the Sinai Peninsula in record timing. So don't tell me it was a geography issue, that's why it had to be 50 days. Says Or HaChaim, בלכתו לקחת אישה ליצחק מכל שכן קו החומר, לחתנות נשיאת ראש כי תקפות הארץ וגם השמיים אם יטרחו לה. Therefore says Or HaChaim, don't tell me it was because the walk was too long. אשר על כן, בא הקדוש ברוך הוא ונותן אמתלה דבר, כי לא מיעוט חשק הוא הסובב. It wasn't because Hashem didn't want to give the Torah. It wasn't because he had something holding him back. Ella, says the Or HaChaim, litzad hachsharat hachatan. It was because the Hatan himself, because Am Yisrael ourselves, we were not ready to receive the Torah. We had too much tumah. We had too much tumah inside of us. We were enslaved in the land of impurity. It was like a nida, incredible. And therefore what? Nitzad b'nei Yisrael. Perush, just like a woman who has to sit zayin when she sees blood, so to Am Yisrael had to sit 7 weeks in order to get rid of the tumah of Mitzrayim. Asher tzivah Hashem leziva, Zohar Kadosh. V'hu omro letzeit b'nei Yisrael perush lesibat yitziat me'eretz Mitzrayim. Hayu hasovev akavat hadavar ad chodesh hagimel. That's why Bnei Yisrael had to wait 3 months to get to Torah, because we ourselves, we had to, again, what were we doing in the Midbar, Rabutai? For 50 days, what were we doing in the Midbar? We weren't just sitting around. We weren't twirling our thumbs. There was a purification process.
Was it 3 months or 7 weeks?
Yeah.
You're saying there's how long is 7 weeks?
A month and a half. No, 2 months.
So I guess you had to say they had to start the counting. You're right. It was 3 months, but they had to start. It overlapped. I mean to say it overlapped. The 7 weeks was swallowed into the 3 months. It's a good point.
3 months of yeshiva, you don't do anything in Israel. But January, that's when you start.
After a lot, after Hanukkah. So you're saying that Hashem...
It's like after 3 months, and then after a year or two.
So you're saying Hashem purposely gave them 50 days so they could use this trip as a lesson to purify themselves so they could be ready to be a kala.
That's correct.
Like learn the lot, Kut Yosef, so you know what you're doing.
That's correct. The Torah himself, the Torah is the kalan, we're the chatan, and therefore we had to take time. They had to be a sum meirah first. We had to get rid of the evil before we were ready to be la'aseh tov, before we were ready to actually start and learning Torah itself. And don't tell me, by the way, don't tell me that, you know what, maybe today's different. Maybe by the times of Dor Mitzrayim or Dor Midbar, they had to go through a purification process in order to be ready to accept the Torah in its fullest. But maybe today, since they already did it, maybe we don't have to do the same. Maybe that chok, that rule of purification only applied to them, but for us it doesn't apply. I'll tell you not. I'll argue not. Look at this number 10 that Ramchal. It says that Ramchal, Shekol Tikun Shnitkan V'or Gadol She'ir Bezman Mehazmanehem. The same exact tikkun, the same exact fixing, and the same exact heavenly influence that was around in those times, in the times of the Bible, Bishuv Tukufat Hazman Hu Ya'ir Or Me'in Ha'or Harishon. Therefore, when we experience the holidays now, it's not like we're experiencing something, we're celebrating something that happened many years ago. So then no, whatever influence, whatever heavenly assistance or design that happened then, it happens again. It happens again in our times. Says the Ramchal, "Utechodesh toldot hatikun hahu b'mei shekiblo." And therefore, hugba b'shuv tekuvat hazman hahu ya'ir alenu or me'en ha'or she'ir az. The same exact light, the same exact powers that Hashem performed in those times, He performs it again. I'll explain it better. It's not, when we celebrate the holidays, it's not a symbolic celebration. It's cyclical. You understand what I'm saying? It happens again. Whatever divine influence was around then, that divine influence happens again. Therefore, when we read the Aseret HaDibrot on Shabbat in 2 days, it's not like we're commemorating something that happened 3,000 years ago.
It's reenacting.
Exactly, it's reenacting. It's happening again. Hashem is giving the Aseret HaDibrot again.
Not necessarily the Shabbat. That's going to be Shavuot.
Yeah, or Shabbat again, or Shabbat because
you're learning about it. It's not the season.
Because it's always considered the season. That's the point. Because since we're reading it inside the Torah, it has influence, and therefore whatever we had to do then in order to be ready to accept the Torah, we have to do the same exact thing now. That's what he says. Whatever tikkun they had to do then, we have to re-perform the tikkun again now. And therefore says the Ramchal, just like the Chag HaShavuot, when Hashem used positive influence then, He used the same positive influence and those powers again. Even though it's not actual that time, and therefore that is our job. Our job is that just like Am Yisrael were, they physically and they spiritually prepared themselves in a purification process then 3,000 years ago, it's our job to do it again today. Exactly. It's our job to do it again today. Well, the question is, what's the question? How do we do it? What's the proper tahara process that they went through then that we have to get through now?
How do we apply it?
How do we apply it? Exactly. How do we apply it? Well, to suggest an answer, if you look at number 11, source number 11, the Aryeh says halacha, otiyot, hakara. Exactly. Meaning to say, the first step in the process is to actually start learning. That's the first step. If a person really wants to stul meira, to get away from the bad, he has to do an aseh tov. He has to do a positive act. And it's not just the word halacha is like the words hakala. How do we derive halacha? Like the Ben Ish Chai said, through the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And Torah Sheba'al Peh is connected through the Torah Shebektav. So anytime we learn anything, it's as if we're reconnecting to our kalot. Imagine, I remember when I got marriage counseling training in Israel, Rabbi Abramov, his first name is, slipped my mind, Rabbi Abramov. He gives a marriage counseling class to all Rabbanim and through all these people that want to be marriage counselors. And the first thing he told us was, imagine all of you right now on the table, you're all marriage counselors. That's how you have to picture it. And a couple comes through and they say, the woman says, my husband, he never spends any time with me. Throughout the year, he's busy. And then once a year on our anniversary, he takes me out, hotel, wine and dine, he gives me a present. And then after that, it's ignoring again. What would you tell such a husband? What's the answer? You have to spend more time with your wife, obviously. So, says...
Forget the anniversary.
Huh? Well, at least he didn't forget the anniversary. So when it comes to Torah, the same exact thing. The Torah, again, it's our kalot. We have to spend just as much we invest in our actual lives. We have to invest in the Torah the same. Imagine if the Torah comes along and says he doesn't spend any time with me during the year. During the year, he's too busy. He's at work. He's with friends. He's at the barbecues. He had plenty of time for that. But all of a sudden, when it comes to me, the Torah itself, he had no time. Only one day on Simchat Torah did he come. He took me out of the Hechal. He danced with me around Hakafot. After that, Ad Kan Hakafa Harishon. Kiss me, put me back in the Hechal. Put me back in the box, exactly. The wife complains and says, dear marriage counselor, he had enough time for his friends. He had enough time for the television. He had enough time for his phone. But for me, he never had enough time. The Torah comes with the same exact claim. He had enough time for his friends. He had enough time for everything else. But for me, for the Torah itself, was never enough time. He only dances with me one time on Simchat Torah, kisses me, puts me back in the box. That's the problem with marriage today. There's a lack of communication. The communication is missing. When it comes to the Torah, same exact thing. The Torah complains there's a lack of communication. Therefore, the first step in Sul Meira, the first step in the purification process of the properly learned Torah is Aseh Tov. We have to actually sit down and say, you know what? I'm ready to make a commitment.
I heard that if you wanna like fight the bad when you're learning Torah, it like destroys that bad from trying to do harm.
Absolutely. It's a block. It's a block. But again, it's more than that. Look at the next source and pick out both. In source number 12. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa Omer. Kol shirat chet'o kodem chokhmah. Anytime that person has yirat chet, fear of sin, more than his chokhmah, chokhmato mitkayemet. Then his chokhmah it stays. However, if he has more chokhmah than yirat chet, more than yirat shamayim, in chokhmato mitkayemet. What does that mean? He explains. Hu haya omer. He used to say, Kol shema'asav mirubim chokhmato mitkayemet. What does it mean ma'asav? That the things that he learns mean to say that when he sits down, he learns a sugya, and he learns something new. He didn't just say, oh, that's a nice hidush, and then he moved on. No, it's more than that. Kol shema'asav, his ma'asim, what he learned, he put it into practice. Lilmod al minat la'asot. Then he came to the class, the rabbi told him a hidush, he sat down with his Chaburah, he learned something that he never learned before, and he decided right now, I'm going to implement what I'm learning. Kol shechokhmata mirubah, kol she'irat chet mirubah al chokhmah. Says the Pirkei Avot, kol shema'asav mirubim chokhmato. His ma'asav, he actually puts his learning into practice. His ma'asim itself, chokhmato mitkayemet. In that way, that's when the Torah stays. It's considered a purification process in itself. When he's practicing what he's learning, that's when his chokhmah stays. However, kol chokhmato mirubim ma'asav. But let's say he uses the Torah not as a way to practice. For him, it's considered mental exercise. I know guys like that. They come to the yeshiva, they sit down in front of the Gemara, they like learning Gemara, but they don't actually, doesn't change them. Because they're just there because they like the back and forth, they like the answering, they like the question, they enjoy it. However, for them, it's just a mental exercise. It's considered the chokhmah is mirubah b'ma'asav. They don't actually practice what they preach. In that case, the chokhmah is unmitkayem. It goes away. When you learn something inside the class and they're teaching you what to do, what not to do, if you put it into practice right away, that's when a person has yirat shamayim, because you know that he's learning for a purpose, he's learning for a reason. Last night in the halakha class, we learned about that every Erev Shabbat, the person should sharpen his knife. Sigula for shalom bayit. When you sharpen your knives on Erev Shabbat, sigula for shalom bayit. So somebody in the class mentioned, one of the members, he said, you know what, now every single Friday, I'm going to sharpen my knife. That's a correct hashkafa, by the way. Even though he had no idea why. I also don't know why we sharpen our knives. Right?
Do it on Shabbat.
Okay, maybe. I'm not getting into the reason. I'm getting into the hashkafa behind it. The guy said, you know what, I learned something new. Right away I'm going to implement. That's the correct way of doing it. We learn tefillah every single Mondays in this very room. If a person after the tefillah class, if his tefillah is the same as it was the day before, then what are you gaining? What are you gaining? We're here in order to learn more things, new things. And therefore, if your tefillah didn't change from one Monday class to the other, the whole thing is it's not considered much. Maybe you get credit for the fact that you learned. But more than that, I don't know if you had, because we learn in order to do. Therefore, if a person really wants to have a proper purification process, that he wants to say, you know what, I want the Torah to change me, there's only one way to do it. That after you learn something, you right away you implement it. I told you once before that when I first got married with my wife, I told her, I said, listen, I don't know everything. And I'm in the kollel in order to learn. Therefore, if I come back after a long day in kollel and I tell my wife, listen, I want to start doing this, don't come along and tell me, well, we never did this before. Well, I know we never did this before. That's the point. That's why we learn. Exactly. That's why we learn. We learn in order to change our lives, in order to do new things. Therefore, it says the Mishnah Pirkei Avot, the person really wants the Torah learning to change him. First of all, he's got to start in learning, and after he begins to learn, actually put it into practice. Says the very next Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. However, this is Avot Rabbi Natan. He quotes the same exact Mishnah, but it has a significant addition. He quotes the same exact Mishnah. If you read it, Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa Omer, he has to have chokhmah. Hu haya omer kol shema'asav, says Avot Rabbi Natan, the last two words, shne'emar. How do I know that a person has to implement when he learns? Shne'emar, na'aseh v'nishma. The exact same pasuk in this week's parasha, the Bnei Yisrael said, na'aseh v'nishma, meaning to say that, na'aseh, ma shenishma, that we're going to do that which we learned. Implement. Na'aseh, we're going to implement that shenishma, that which we heard. Therefore, says Avot Rabbi Natan, the only way that a person can have chokhmah, the only way a person can expect the Torah that he learns to change him, is by writing down notes. Is by saying to himself, listen, I'm here for a reason. I went to a class for a reason, in order for the Torah to change me. Says the very next source in source number 14. Hu haya omer, kol shechokhmato merubah mema'asav. Anytime that a person's chokhmah, that he's just in the Beit Midrash, to lift mental weights. He's there just to exercise his brain. In that case, what is it compared to? Le'ilan, to a tree. He has a lot of leaves, a lot of branches. It's a very big tree. A lot of Torah this guy has. However, his roots are very few. His shoresh, what's holding to the ground, is very, very few because he doesn't practice what he preaches. Then what happens? Comes a strong wind, flips him over, and now the guy's branches are on the floor. His foundation. There's no foundation exactly. Because when he doesn't practice, when he preaches, there's no foundation. However, it says the Mishnah, let's say a person he practices what the Torah is preaching. In that case, what is it compared to? He might not have as many roots or as many branches as other trees. However, sharashav mirubim, but his foundation is extremely solid. Therefore, afilu kol haruchot sheba'olam, even all the winds come along, ba'ot v'roshbot bo, ein mezizin oto mimkomo. He doesn't move from his place because this guy's practicing what he's learning. Therefore, his Torah is considered solid. It's not going anywhere. Think about it yourselves. When a person is used to doing the same thing over and over again, a person knows hilachot. Hadlakat Nerot Shabbat, cold. He knows exactly what to do, how to light, when to light, what time to light. These halachot he never forgets. Why? Because he's always practicing it. Since he's always practicing, halachot he never forgets. All of a sudden, when he learns something new, hilachot borer, as an example, and he never practices. Borer is something nice, but he doesn't actually do it. He forgets the halachot like this. Since he's never actually in the sugya itself, it goes away. Therefore, as long as he has the ma'asav, his chokhmah is considered retained. That's what the next source in Gemara in Barachot Daf Yud Zayin, source number 15. Margilat b'pumei de Rabbi used to say this all the time. Tachlit chokhmah. The person wants to retain his chokhmah. Teshuvah u'ma'asim tovim. His ma'asim, when he practices what he preaches, what the Torah preaches, that's when you can hold on to it. Shlo yeh adam koreh v'shoneh. A person shouldn't be that he goes to the class, the rabbi is preaching for an hour about kibud av va'em, you have to respect your parents, all of a sudden he says, yeah, Rabbi, you're right, you gotta respect your parents. He goes home, and what does he do? V'shoneh, u'bo'et ba'abi v'imo. Now the next thing he does, he kicks his mother and his father. U'berobo, and his rabbi. U'b'mish ha'gadol b'chokhmah, and a person who's greater than him. B'minyan, shnei emar, reshit chokhmah, hirat Hashem. A person doesn't practice what he preaches, everything goes out the window.
Like you can't make those halachot like what you already know that you're fluent in unless you start it.
100%. And that's and by the way, Rabbi, I'll tell you a secret, with this will end, that it was for this reason. It was for this reason that Am Yisrael, since we're able to practice, since we're able to implement the things that we learn, it's for that reason that we're Bechlal Zocheh for the Torah itself. I'll read you Gemara. Last source number 16, Gemara Shabbat Daf Pechet. V'amar Rabbi Shimon, or Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, B'sha'ah, Sha'alam Moshe lamarom. It was at the time that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the heavens to get the Torah. Amru malachei Shaare. The angels told him, Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in front of Hashem, Ribono Sha'olam, Ma liyilud isha benenu. What in the world is this human being, a man born of a woman? What is he doing up in Shamayim? Malahem. So Hashem told them, Lekabel Torah. He came to accept the Torah. So they told Hashem, Amru lefanav, Chemda genuza shenuguza lach tisha meot v'shiv'im v'arba dorot kodem shenaba olam. This was a Hemda genuza. It was a treasure that was hidden for over 900 generations before the world was even created. The Torah was around for 900 generations before the world was created. And therefore, you want to give it to mortal human beings? They don't deserve the Torah. They're not great enough. So what happens? Amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. So Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Hazilem tshuva. Give them an answer. Tell them why you think that you're deserving the Torah. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, Amar lefanav b'no sh'olam. I'm afraid that the angels will burn me from the fire that's coming out of their mouths. Amar lo, still, hold on to my chair, that's going to be your shield, and give them a tshuva, give them an answer. So Moshe Rabbeinu looks at the angels and he says, Ma ketiv ba? What does the Torah say? Torah says, Zachor et yom ha-shabbat l'kodsho. It says you have to keep the Shabbat. So says Moshe Rabbeinu to the angels, Klum atem osim melacha shetem tzrichim lishbot. Do you do melacha that you have to have a commandment to tell you to rest? You don't do melacha. And therefore, why should the Torah belong to you? The whole point of the Torah is to learn it and to put it into practice. You can learn the Torah, says Moshe Rabbeinu to the angels. You can learn it just fine, but you can't implement it. You can't put it into practice. The next thing he told them was, Maketiv ba lo tisa says you should not take Hashem's name in vain. Masal matan ish b'neihem. You have business that you do amongst the angels. Shub maketiv ba kabed tivecha v'timecha. You must respect your parents. Aveim yesh lechem. Do you have a mother and father to respect? Shub maketiv ba lo tirtzach, lo tinaf, lo tignov. Kenai yesh b'neihem. Yetzara yesh b'neihem. Since you don't have these things in order to fulfill the Torah, there's no reason why you should keep it. Therefore, the whole ta'ana, the whole claim of Moshe Rabbeinu was to the angels, the whole reason why we run the argument, the whole reason why we have the Torah in the Heichal today is because the argument was, Rabutai, angels, dear angels, what you're saying is very nice. You can learn Torah from A to B. You can learn the Torah from today until there's no more world. But L'maaseh, could you fulfill it?
But they're just like the people who learn it for the...
Exactly. There's no fulfilling. It's for you angels, it's considered mental exercise. But for the people itself, since we have to fulfill what we learn, therefore it's not shayach.
They're doing Naaseh v'nishma.
They're doing just v'nishma. We're doing Naaseh ma shenishma. We're listening what we preach. And therefore the lesson between Parsha Yitro is twofold. Abutai, we have to first of all, sumira v'asetov. We have to get into it much more. It's not enough. There's so much time that's wasted during the day. So much time. So how much time do you spend on driving? How much time do we spend on just the shtuyot? Like I said before, just continue swiping up. There's so much time that's burnt in the day. It could be spent, even if a person takes a small sefer with him everywhere he goes, whether he's in the doctor's office, whether he's on the train, doesn't matter what he's doing, just open up the sefer. And then eventually once sumera v'aseh tov, we're doing the tov, we have to implement it. It's not enough just to learn it. The Torah is not a mental exercise. It's not Chokot Goyim. It's not a science class. It's not biology. It's not history. For history class, all you need is a pen and paper, a computer to type. The Torah is not like that. When you learn it, you have to say, how am I going to implement this in my life? And once we do that, then Hashem says, Naaseh v'nishma. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen. Rabbi Hanania, we have a minyan. Rabbi Hanania ben Kashomer. Tzah Kadosh Baruch Hu Zakot Titz Afigach Reblahem. Tonos Hashem Mera Adonai Chaves L'man Tzidko Torah.